Let's talk about something that's easy to misunderstand. In a world that rewards toughness, independence, and a thick skin, you might think that shutting down your emotions is a path to strength. You might believe that if you stop being soft, stop caring so much, stop feeling so deeply, you'll finally be protected. You'll be safe. But let me ask you, safe from what? When we decide to stop being emotionally available, what we're really doing is choosing numbness over connection. And here's the thing about numbness. It doesn't discriminate. You don't get to selectively turn off pain without also turning off joy. You don't get to shield yourself from disappointment without also shutting out love. You don't get to build walls without eventually living inside them, alone. At some point, you may have told yourself that people don't deserve your softness. Maybe someone hurt you. Maybe you gave too much and it wasn't returned. Maybe the world felt too harsh for your open heart. So you toughened up, you stopped expressing, stopped trusting, stopped letting people in. And for a while it felt like a victory. But here's the real cost. When we trade vulnerability for invulnerability, we lose the very thing that makes life worth living. Real connection. We become people who are fine but never fulfilled. Guarded, but never deeply loved, self-sufficient, but endlessly lonely. We've been taught that strength means pushing through, not showing weakness, not letting anyone see our scars. But what if true strength is the exact opposite? What if strength is staying open even when you've been hurt? What if it's choosing to feel even when it's easier to shut down? What if the bravest thing you can do is to keep showing up with all your emotions in a world that often tells you not to? The world doesn't need more hardened hearts. It needs more people who dare to be kind even when it's not easy, who choose softness even when it feels risky, who understand that real power comes from the courage to feel. So if you've been holding back, if you've been telling yourself that being soft is a weakness, let me remind you, your heart is not a liability. It's your greatest asset. And the moment you stop being afraid of your emotions, you start truly living. We live in a culture that often equates strength with toughness. We hear messages like, suck it up, push through, and never let them see you sweat. We admire people who seem unshaken, who don't flinch in the face of hardship, who keep their emotions locked up tight as if feelings are a liability. But here's the truth. Real strength isn't about how much you can suppress. It's about how much you can embrace. Vulnerability is often misunderstood. People think of it as being weak, fragile, or too sensitive. They believe that to be vulnerable is to be exposed, and to be exposed is to be at risk. And yes, vulnerability does come with risk, but everything meaningful in life does. Love, connection, creativity, courage, all of them require us to be open, to show up as we are, and to risk being seen. Think about the moments in your life that have truly mattered, the times when you felt deeply connected to someone, the moments of growth that changed you, the experiences that made your heart race with excitement or fear. Every single one of those moments required vulnerability. When you tell someone you love them without knowing if they'll say it back, that's vulnerability. When you take a leap of faith on a new career path, uncertain of how it will turn out, that's vulnerability. When you admit that you're struggling instead of pretending you have it all together, that's vulnerability. Now, does any of that sound like weakness? No, it sounds like bravery, because the alternative is a life spent in hiding. A life where you never say what you truly feel, where you never risk rejection, where you never put your heart on the line. It's a life spent behind walls, where nothing can hurt you, but nothing can truly reach you either. That's not strength, that's fear. True strength is standing in the discomfort of uncertainty and still moving forward. True strength is allowing yourself to be seen even when you're scared of judgment. True strength is opening your heart even when it's been broken before. When you stop seeing vulnerability as a weakness and start recognizing it as a superpower, everything changes. You begin to realize that the most courageous people are not the ones who shut down, but the ones who show up fully, authentically, and unapologetically. So the next time you find yourself hesitating, holding back, or wanting to armor up because the world has told you that being soft makes you weak, I want you to remember this. Vulnerability is not what makes you fragile. It's what makes you unstoppable. At some point in life, we all experience pain, heartbreak, betrayal, disappointment, grief. And when the weight of those emotions becomes too much, our natural instinct is to protect ourselves. We tell ourselves, if I stop caring, I won't get hurt. If I don't feel, I can't be disappointed. So we shut down, we detach, we convince ourselves that numbness is the answer. And for a while, it might seem like it's working. You stop letting things affect you as deeply. You stop getting your hopes up. You stop expecting too much from people. You tell yourself you're stronger now because nothing can touch you. But here's the problem. Numbness doesn't just block out pain. It blocks out everything. You don't get to selectively numb emotions. You can't say, I'm just going to stop feeling sadness, but I'll keep joy. Or I'll turn off disappointment, but I'll still let myself feel love. It doesn't work that way. When you numb pain, you also numb happiness. When you close yourself off to rejection, you also close yourself off to connection. Think of it like anesthesia. When you go in for surgery, the doctors numb you to keep you from feeling the pain. But while you're numb, you can't feel anything else either. Not warmth, not touch, not life. And if you stay numb for too long, you lose your ability to experience the full range of emotions that make you human. So yes, choosing to feel nothing might protect you from hurt, but at what cost? A life without deep pain might sound appealing, but a life without deep love, deep joy, and deep meaning is empty. Numbness is not protection, it's isolation. When you shut off your emotions, you don't just stop feeling the bad, you also stop being fully present in your relationships. You start holding people at arm's length, afraid to let them get too close. You build walls instead of bridges. And little by little, you find yourself going through the motions of life rather than actually living it. But here's the good news. You don't have to stay numb. Healing doesn't come from shutting down. It comes from leaning in. It comes from feeling even when it's hard. It comes from acknowledging pain rather than avoiding it. Because when you let yourself feel deeply, you open yourself up to life in all its beauty and intensity. Yes, allowing yourself to feel again might mean opening yourself up to hurt, but it also means opening yourself up to love, connection, and meaning. And in the end, that's what makes life worth living. So if you've been numbing yourself to avoid pain, I want to remind you, you were not meant to go through life disconnected. You were meant to feel. The risk of pain will always be there, but so will the reward of love, joy, and deep, meaningful experience. And that is something worth choosing every single time. We all wear armor, not the kind made of metal and steel, but the kind made of sarcasm, indifference, perfectionism, or emotional detachment. It's the shield we put up when we've been hurt too many times, when we've learned that being open makes us vulnerable, when we believe that if we build strong enough walls, nothing and no one can hurt us again. At first, the armor feels protective. It keeps the pain out. It prevents betrayal, rejection, and disappointment. We convince ourselves that by not letting people see our true selves, our fears, our insecurities, our weaknesses, we are staying safe. But here's what we often fail to realize. The same armor that keeps pain out also keeps love out. The same walls that protect us from hurt also keep us from connection. the illusion of safety. When we build emotional armor, we think we're gaining control. We tell ourselves, if I don't get too close to people, they can't let me down. If I don't express my feelings, no one can use them against me. If I act like I don't care, then I won't get hurt. And on the surface, it seems to work. We feel less exposed, we appear strong, independent, untouchable, but beneath that tough exterior, something else is happening. We start to feel lonely even when we're surrounded by people. We struggle to form deep, meaningful relationships. We find ourselves longing for connection but terrified to reach for it, because the more we rely on our armor, the more disconnected we become, not just from others but from ourselves. The cost of emotional armor. We often think of distance as a physical thing, miles between two people, time spent apart. But emotional distance is just as real and sometimes even more painful. When we put up walls, we may still be with people, but we are not truly with them. We can sit across from a friend at dinner and keep the conversation surface level. We can be in a relationship and still feel alone. We can have dozens of acquaintances, but no one who really knows us. And here's the hardest truth. Armor doesn't just push others away. It also keeps us from fully experiencing life. When we refuse to let ourselves be vulnerable, we miss out on the deepest forms of love, joy, and human connection. We might avoid heartbreak, but we also avoid intimacy. We might avoid disappointment, but we also avoid true belonging. Breaking free from the armor, the only way to experience real connection is to let down our guard. That doesn't mean throwing ourselves into every relationship without caution or sharing our deepest thoughts with people who haven't earned our trust. But it does mean taking small steps toward openness. It means allowing ourselves to be seen, not just the polished, put-together version we show the world, but the raw, unfiltered, imperfect version of who we truly are. It means daring to say, I miss you, I need help, I love you, even when it feels terrifying. It means showing up fully, even when there's a risk of being hurt. Because here's the paradox. The very thing we think will protect us, our armor, is the thing that keeps us from what we need most. Love, connection, belonging. So if you've been living behind walls, I want you to ask yourself, what is my armor costing me? What moments, relationships, and experiences have I missed because I was too afraid to be seen? And more importantly, is the protection really worth the loneliness? Taking off the armor isn't easy. It requires courage, it requires trust. But in the end, it's the only way to live a life that is rich, full, and deeply connected. Because true strength isn't in how well you can shield yourself. It's in how bravely you can let yourself be known. We admire toughness, we glorify resilience, we celebrate people who push through adversity without breaking, who stand strong no matter what life throws at them. And while toughness is valuable, necessary, even, there's a dangerous misconception we've been taught that being tough means shutting down our tenderness. Somewhere along the way, many of us started believing that softness is a liability, that kindness makes us weak, that if we want to survive in this world, we have to harden ourselves, suppress our emotions, and become unshakable. So we build up walls, we stop expressing affection, we convince ourselves that we don't need anyone, we mistake emotional detachment for strength. And at first, it seems to work. We feel invincible, we don't get hurt as easily, we become more in control. But over time, something starts to shift. The more we suppress our tenderness, the more disconnected we become, not just from others, but from ourselves. Because here's the truth, toughness without tenderness doesn't make you stronger, it makes you empty. The illusion of strength, when we prioritize toughness at the expense of tenderness, we may gain a sense of power, but it's a lonely kind of power. We might earn respect, but we struggle to experience love. We might achieve success, but we feel like something is always missing. That's because real fulfillment doesn't come from being untouchable, it comes from being connected. And connection requires something that toughness alone cannot provide: openness, vulnerability, and emotional depth. Think about the people in your life who truly make a difference. The ones who inspire you, who make you feel safe, who leave a lasting impact. Are they the ones who never show emotion, never express kindness, never let their guard down? Or are they the ones who balance strength with compassion, who can be fierce when needed but still hold space for love and humanity? The cost of closing off, choosing toughness over tenderness, may protect us from pain, but it also prevents us from experiencing joy, love, and true fulfillment. When we refuse to soften, we lose the ability to fully experience life's most meaningful moments. The warmth of a deep, genuine conversation, the comfort of a heartfelt embrace, the joy of loving without reservation, the peace of knowing we are not alone in our struggles. Without tenderness, relationships suffer. People feel like they can't reach us. We become distant, even in the closest of relationships. Friends stop opening up to us because they assume we won't understand. Loved ones hesitate to share their feelings because they fear rejection. And slowly, we find ourselves surrounded by people, yet completely alone. Even worse, we begin to lose touch with our own emotions. We stop recognizing when we're hurting. We convince ourselves we're fine even when we're not. We push through exhaustion, loneliness, and sadness because we've been taught that showing any kind of softness is a sign of weakness. But over time, that emotional suppression catches up with us through burnout, anxiety, resentment, or a deep sense of emptiness that we can't quite explain. True strength is the balance of toughness and tenderness. The most powerful people are not the ones who feel nothing. They are the ones who have the courage to feel deeply and still stand strong. They are the ones who know that you can be both tough and kind, strong and soft, resilient and compassionate. Because toughness alone is survival, but tenderness is what makes life worth living. A leader who leads with empathy earns trust and loyalty. A parent who balances discipline with love raises emotionally strong children. A friend who listens without judgment creates a space for true connection. A person who dares to love even after being hurt experiences the depth of human connection. Strength without softness is just rigidity, and anything that is too rigid, too unwilling to bend, eventually breaks, letting tenderness in. If you've spent years believing that being tough means shutting off your emotions, I want you to consider this. What if the real measure of strength isn't how well you can suppress your feelings, but how bravely you can express them? What if true resilience isn't about never needing anyone, but about having the courage to lean on others when you do? What if the strongest version of you is the one who embraces both toughness and tenderness? Life is not about choosing between being strong or being soft. It's about learning to be both. Because in the end, a life without tenderness isn't a life at all. It's just endurance. And you deserve more than just endurance. You deserve to truly live. When someone we trust hurts us, our first instinct is often to protect ourselves. We tell ourselves, that won't happen again. I won't let anyone get that close again. If I stop caring, no one can hurt me. So we begin to detach. We start keeping our emotions in check, not letting ourselves get too attached, not investing too much in relationships. We build walls. We convince ourselves that if we don't love too deeply, we won't feel the sting of betrayal. If We don't expect much from others. We won't be disappointed. If we stay emotionally distant, no one can hurt us again. And for a while, it feels like we're winning. We avoid drama. We don't get as affected by people's actions. We don't feel as vulnerable. But over time, we begin to notice something else. We also don't feel deeply connected. We don't experience the richness of intimacy. We don't find ourselves truly known by anyone. We don't fully love or fully live, because here's the truth. Emotional detachment doesn't prevent betrayal. It only prevents connection, the myth of self-protection. When we emotionally detach, we think we're avoiding pain, but what we're actually doing is cutting ourselves off from the very things that make life meaningful. We may avoid the sting of betrayal, but we also avoid the warmth of love. We may keep ourselves from disappointment, but we also rob ourselves of deep joy. We may never get hurt again, but we also never experience true belonging. Betrayal happens whether we guard ourselves or not. People will still disappoint us. Friends will still leave. Loved ones will still make mistakes. Keeping our distance doesn't change that reality. It only ensures that when the inevitable pain of life comes, we'll be facing it alone. And that's the greatest tragedy of emotional detachment. It doesn't just keep out pain, it keeps out everything. The illusion of control. One of the biggest reasons we emotionally detach is because we think it gives us control. We believe that if we never open up, never get too close, never invest too much, then we hold all the power. No one can betray us if we never truly let them in. But here's the problem. Distance doesn't eliminate the risk of pain. It only eliminates the chance of love. By keeping our guard up, we aren't actually preventing hurt. We're just preventing intimacy. We may think we're in control, but in reality, we're just living half lives. We are in relationships, but never fully present. We are surrounded by people, but still feel alone. We are existing, but we are not living. Betrayal hurts, but so does isolation. Yes, betrayal is painful. It's one of the deepest wounds a person can experience. When someone we trust breaks that trust, it shakes our sense of security, our belief in people, and sometimes even our belief in ourselves. But do you know what else is painful? A life without connection, a life where no one truly knows you because you've never allowed them to, a life where you are safe from heartbreak, but also safe from deep, meaningful relationships. Betrayal is painful, but so is loneliness. And the only way to experience true connection is to risk getting hurt. There's no love without vulnerability, no deep friendship without trust, no fulfilling life without taking emotional risks. Choosing connection over fear. So what do we do? If betrayal is inevitable at some point, does that mean we should just keep our hearts wide open, unguarded, and let people hurt us? Not at all. The answer isn't to be reckless, it's to be brave. It's learning how to trust again, even after you've been let down. It's choosing to open up, even when you've been burned before. It's allowing yourself to love deeply, knowing there's always a risk, but that the reward is worth it. Emotional detachment may feel like safety, but real safety doesn't come from isolation. It comes from connection. It comes from knowing that even if you do get hurt, you are strong enough to heal. That even if someone betrays you, there are still people who will never leave. That even if love is risky, it is always, always worth it. Because at the end of the day, protecting yourself from pain isn't the goal. Living a full, open-hearted, deeply connected life is. And you can't do that from behind walls. We live in a world that often tells us to toughen up, to develop thick skin, to not take things too personally. We are told that softness is a weakness, that showing emotions makes us vulnerable, that kindness can be taken advantage of. We're conditioned to believe that if we want to survive, especially in a competitive, sometimes cruel world, We have to be hard, detached, and guarded, and so many of us begin to armor up. We suppress our emotions, we hold back our kindness. We tell ourselves that we must be strong, that we must not let others see our struggles, our fears, or our tenderness. We start to see softness as a liability, something that will only lead to pain, disappointment, or being taken for granted. But here's the truth: softness is not a weakness. It is a superpower. The strength and softness, think about the people who have made the biggest impact on your life. The ones who have inspired you, comforted you, made you feel seen and understood. Were they cold and unfeeling, or were they kind, compassionate, and open-hearted? Real strength isn't found in shutting people out or pretending not to care. It's found in the courage to stay soft in a world that often encourages hardness. It's found in the ability to show up with love even after experiencing pain. It's found in the choice to extend kindness even when it's not reciprocated. Softness is the mother who forgives even when she's exhausted. Softness is the friend who listens even when they're going through their own struggles. Softness is the leader who leads with empathy, not just authority. Softness is the person who chooses to believe in love even after heartbreak. Softness is not about being weak. It's about having the resilience to remain open, to still believe in goodness, to still care, to still love, even when the world gives you reasons not to. Softness requires more courage than hardness. It's easy to shut down. It's easy to become cynical. It's easy to put up walls and stop caring. But staying open, choosing to trust, daring to be kind, that takes real courage. It takes courage to express emotions in a world that tells you to hide them. It takes courage to show kindness when you've been hurt before. It takes courage to care deeply, knowing that you might not always receive the same in return. Being hard is a defense mechanism. It's a way of avoiding pain, but it also means avoiding connection, joy, and the richness of human relationships. Softness, on the other hand, allows us to experience life fully. It allows us to love deeply, to form genuine bonds, to feel the full range of emotions that make us human. It allows us to truly live rather than just survive. The power of softness in relationships. Softness is what creates deep, lasting relationships. It allows us to be vulnerable, to let people in, to truly connect. When we let our guard down, we give others permission to do the same. When we lead with kindness, we create safe spaces for others to be themselves. When we choose to see the good in people, we inspire them to rise to that goodness. Softness is what turns acquaintances into lifelong friends. It's what strengthens romantic relationships, making them more intimate and fulfilling. It's what makes us human, capable of loving and being loved in return. The power of softness in leadership and success. Some believe that to succeed, you have to be ruthless, cutthroat, and emotionally detached. But the most impactful leaders, the most successful people, the ones who leave legacies, are the ones who balance strength with kindness. Softness in leadership doesn't mean being weak. It means leading with empathy, with understanding, with a deep sense of humanity. It means recognizing that people perform their best when they feel valued, heard, and respected. Think about the greatest leaders in history. Were they feared or were they loved? Were they cold and detached, or did they lead with passion, with heart, with a vision that inspired others? Softness allows us to be persuasive rather than forceful, respected rather than feared, and deeply impactful rather than just powerful. Softness is what makes us human. A world without softness would be a cold, unfeeling place. It is softness that gives life its meaning. It's the warmth of a hug after a long day. It's the comfort of a kind word when you feel like giving up. It's the strength of forgiveness when holding a grudge would be easier. It's the power of love. in all its forms, romantic, platonic, familial, and even self-love. Softness is not something to be ashamed of. It is not something to suppress. It is something to embrace, to celebrate, to nurture, because in the end,